trying to find the best way to say this, but I guess I'm gonna have to use that old school AOL voice and say, "You've got mail." If you're old enough to recognize that reference, that's yeah, never mind. Moving on. I'm not gonna pull numbers on age here. So I got some mail from Zach Zach Stuff, and aside from the knife I'm gonna be reviewing today, he was kind enough to go ahead and send this Olight IR2 EOS in black, which I am super happy about because I have the original, and it would be cool to see what the difference is between this and the original. But it's not about that today. It's about what's in this, and this is actually the CJRB Gobi. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this. I'm gonna let the intro run, and once it's done, this should be open. We can go ahead and check out the knife. So let's do this. Guys, welcome back, and yeah, so without further ado, this is the CJRB Gobi. That's not Kobe like the basketball player, that's Gobi like the desert. Yeah, that's right, Gobi, Gobi. Speaking of that, I did want to thank Zach Stuff for sending the knife over again. This is part of the Apex Fast Round, but most importantly, he always sends off these really cool decals. I freaking love that stuff, and he has them in different shapes and sizes. So just wanted to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my boy Zach. Got to meet him at SHOT Show, shared some tacos with him and the folks over at CJRB at one of the best freaking taco places in Las Vegas on the Strip. Shout out to Tacos El Gordo. Yeah, that's the place. All right, cool. If you're ever on the Strip, go ahead and check that out. So let's talk a little bit about the CJRB the Gobi. Now, this has a nice, it's kind of like a Persian style blade, and the cool thing about this one, it has some nice contrasting colors. It has the jade G10 scales, and then it has the orange backspacer and the pivot collar. Very nice action. It runs off of bearings. This is stone washed D2 steel, and yeah, it is made in China by CJRB, which is the value line for artisan cutlery. Now, there is a bit of curvature to the actual scale itself, and it's not just in just the way that it's designed, but in the way that the G10 scales are milled as well, because this is actually 3D G10. The contouring on it is not flat like you would see on some other, knives. As an example, this is the SOG Terminus XR in S35 VN. Actually very nice, and it has some milling inside of the carbon fiber, but as you can see, it's actually kind of flat here on the actual face of the knife, and then on the sides it kind of contours a little bit, but it's not too much. This is actual like rounding off and contouring of the actual the G10, and I like it because it creates a nice comfortable feel in your hand. Another thing I do want to go ahead and point out is that it does have a deep carry clip. It does not sit as low in the pocket as you would think, because of the fact that it did have to provide space for the backspacer screws and the lanyard hole that sits in the back of the backspacer. So yeah, that is something to consider. Now, it does have inset liners on the inside. It is lined on both sides, and the presentation side does not have any skeletonization. It's actually a full liner on the presentation side, but even considering that, it's actually relatively light. It's not a very robust, heavy folding knife, which, I mean, given the size, you would think that it would weigh a little bit heavier than it is, but it really doesn't. I'm gonna say though that it does feel a little bit more handle heavy than the actual blade, even though it is quite I would call this a full-size blade. It lends itself to a bit of kind of like that Persian kind of if I could call it a trailing point, if you will. There's a couple of knives that I've been dealing with recently, and let me see if I can find them here. I'll find at least, oh, okay, yeah, well, here's one. It hasn't come out yet, but it's from a similar Chinese company named Kaiser. Maybe you've heard of them. This is a Carlos Elsner design. It is the Assassin. As you can see, it's got quite a bit of belly like this guy and trails up here. But this one actually is a little bit more fluid in the design than this one right here, because there's curvature not only in the G10 scales, but then it kind of goes into a nice little wavelength pattern here into the blade itself. And I like that a lot. I think it translates really well to the design and it fits it really, really nice. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna, confront the elephant in the room head on, and I'm gonna state that from the beginning when I saw this knife, it did remind me a lot of a ZT design. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't. In this case, I'm talking about the ZT-0460. Now, I am somebody who has held the ZT-0460, and I have obviously held the CJRB Gobi in my hand. Not only now, but I went ahead and I held it during SHOT Show 2020 when I was at the CJRB booth with Eric from the Outer Limitless YouTube channel. I'm gonna be completely honest, they are two different knives. They were not created with each other in mind. The ZT-0460 came first. It's a USA made design. This is a Chinese D2 design that is not meant to compete with it in any way, shape, or form. And I mean, any comparisons to it are just, it just happens to be, oh yeah, and well, it's another Persian knife. I mean, there are other types of knives like that, like the Kaiser, the Shamshir, which comes to mind, and it's not a flipper, but it is thumb stud, opening. And, it's just, it is what it is. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. They are different. You'd have to feel them in your hands to be able to understand. I do know that Kershaw did come out with a new design that's very similar as well. I don't recall the name right now, but I'll probably splice a picture of it or something like that in the video, and or maybe the name, and we can take it from there. So that being said, let's go ahead and compare it to a couple of other knives that I have here on the table. We have the Rake P105K, as you can see here. Pretty similar in size. The 105K has a thicker overall look to itself. It has the deep carry clip and the wider blade shape here. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, here's another Chinese company, Civivi Backlash, company that has a lot of value folders. This is no exception. Not D2, 9CR18 MOV. Nice belly, but not exactly the kind of belly that you would see on this very slicey Gobi from CJRB. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, okay. Oh, let's bring it back. The SOG Terminus XR. Astonishing value folder from SOG, an S35VN, that's CPM S35VN, by the way. Carbon fiber handles, and the XR lock. I want to say different deployment methods. Nice little value that you get here. Still, a bit smaller than the Gobi itself. Speaking of jade, I got my boy the mini feldspar from CJRB. Now they have the standard size feldspar, which is going to be quite a bit bigger, and then they have the feldspar, the small version. This kind of reminds me of CJRB's version of like the Ontario Rat number 1 and the Ontario Rat number 2. Cool thing about it is they both come with jade scales, but if you notice, the pivot collar and the backspacer on the Gobi is actually a nice bright orange. This one is actually in, I want to say it's either copper or brass, one of the two, but still, and open pillar construction. I do not have a backspacer on the feldspar. So there you go. And let's see, what else do I have? Ah, another CJRB, and probably one of their better, one of their best-selling designs. This is the CJRB Centros from Dylan Mallory. This is my boy, Mr. Georgia's finest young designer. D2 steel, just like the Gobi. G10 handles, but unlike the Gobi, it actually has that flat kind of subdued G10 design handle, which translates well to the actual overall design of the knife. And it does not have that kind of 3D contouring that the Gobi has. Now, my impressions of this knife are as follows. Okay, so first and foremost, the deep carry clip translates really well to the knife. I mean, it gives it you the opportunity to get as high as possible, you know, on the scale here with just a small amount sticking out. It's not a truly deep carry clip because there is still this amount here that sticks out. But aside from that, you do also have the screws that sit proud of these scales. I'm pretty sure you can see it there, which are going to end up catching against, you know, anything that's not thin, like if you have jeans, if you have thick khakis, if you have shorts or anything like that that you happen to use, they are going to go ahead and catch against that. I do like the fact that even though it's a liner lock, and this type of liner lock is designed, you know, primarily for right-handed users, they do have this tipped for left-handed carry. And if you choose to not actually use the clip itself, you can always go ahead and set a nice little lanyard onto here, take this off, and it would work just fine. Another thing I like about the design element is the fact that this is not going to mess with you in the pocket because of the curvature of the actual scales. The flipper tab, which makes it very easy to be able to go ahead and access and open, is not something that even, you know, remotely is going to hit you when you have your hand in your pocket reaching for your pocket, you know, change, your, you know, maybe you keep a little flashlight in your pocket like I do. I actually keep my Swiss Army knife and my Nightcore Tiki LE in my pocket, and sometimes it's in the same pocket as my pocket knife, but sometimes I'll have my keys in there. So whatever I choose to go ahead and go in to get, I'm not going to feel the flipper tab on there. Now, aside from that, there is jimping that's here, but there is no jimping that's here. So that's something to you know, to consider and to keep in mind. It does feel very good in the hand with a standard grip like this. With the thumb on here, you can feel that you have, you know, some nice control. You have a thick stock, a thick blade stock, but the truth is it's ground in such a way where you can actually make some nice cuts with this. You can slice really well with this. You can probably prep food really well with this, and, you know, slice up, say, you know, some game. This would probably be a pretty good skinning knife for the most part, and you know, slicing through skin, that sort of thing, when you're prepping deer. And the fact of the matter is, this is on bearings, so it's very nice action. I mean, you're gonna feel a very good action. Let's see here, T8 to be able to go ahead and disassemble the pivot, and if I'm not mistaken, it looks like T6 for the 2 screws at the base. So very simple to be able to operate. You remove this right here, and then you remove these 2, and you're good to go. So another thing that I like about the CJRB Gobi is the fact that you have these jade scales, and if you choose to go ahead and you know, dye it a little different, say you want to use something like Rit dye or I-dye poly, like, which is what I typically use when I'm going to dye scales, this takes a very, very nice look, and it absorbs multiple colors. If you want to go ahead and kind of do one fading into another, or just one nice vibrant color, jade scales are great for that. And I love the fact that there are more and more companies that are coming out with this. As you can see, CJRB is you know, starting to really come into its own with the scale design and the knife design. I mean, you look at these 2 knives, really nice offerings from CJRB, especially, I mean, I really like how the orange pops against the jade, and just this this D2 stonewash blade, it's a nice looking, and it's a functional style blade. Whether it is in the reverse grip or in the standard grip, I feel like there weren't any hot spots, you know, taking it out to kind of use it, that sort of thing. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I actually put it in a reverse grip, my middle finger actually rests right here in the spoon part of like this kind of little part, this part that divots here with the clip. And it doesn't move from that position. It actually feels really good just from how I feel, you know, holding it. So that's something I really liked. If I could say that there was one thing that I did not like about this knife, it's the fact that it does not have jimping up here. Now, that may not necessarily translate to the design. There isn't any jimping on the flipper tab either, but the truth is it really doesn't need it. As long as you know how to flip this knife, you're perfectly fine, and you're gonna get that. It's pretty intuitive right from the beginning on how to be able to go ahead and flip this knife. It's centered pretty nicely. The action is really good. These are actually surprisingly easy to take down. The lockup is nice. And yeah, I mean, honestly, for the price for something like this, I know you're gonna get the majority of these under $40, and some of them even under $35. This is a no-brainer when it comes to the new value that it comes with the knives, and dare I say it, it is an amazingly great time to be broke. And you can't say you're broke right now as of the date of this video, because you probably at least have a small portion of that stimulus check that Trump deposited into your account if you're in the US and you're trying to go ahead and reel back from this issue with the coronavirus. So if you do and you happen to have about 35, 40 bucks, go ahead and check out one of these. You will not be disappointed. And honestly, if you get one of these, pick up some Rit Die too if you plan on, wanting to do a little bit of DIY. These are very easy to go ahead and take apart. Go ahead and take the two scales, you dip them into the die, and you let it soak in, and you can have yourself a nice custom, do-it-yourself custom knife, courtesy of CJRB, with these nice little jade scales. So yeah, that's basically it. Not much negative to talk about here. I'm not going to be pedantic, but with the exception of the jimping there really isn't much else that I can talk about. I mean, even the lock face is actually very easy to be able to access from the front. It is a liner lock, and I mean, it lends itself well to the design. It looks well, it doesn't stick out, it's easy to be able to engage, and I think that this is a really, really good design. I would like to see them actually translate this design into something maybe just a little bit smaller, maybe just, maybe about 1/2 inch smaller here or 1 inch smaller here, and then maybe, a 1/2 inch smaller blade. It would be something that would be able to be used, say it's like a 2.96, length blade, but with that curvature, it allows you to be able to get more belly into more total edge, to kind of circumvent the kind of gray area that comes with draconian life laws that allow you to only carry a knife when the blade itself is under 3 inches. I think that would be a really good opportunity for CJRB to create something like this in a small size for it. But again, that's just my 2 cents. And yeah, that's basically it. This is the CJRB Gobi, not Kobe, like I said before, but Gobi. Really cool name, really cool knife, really cool design from a great company like CJRB. I mean, the company makes really awesome knives, from, the Gobi to the Feldspar to even the Centros. Just remember, no matter what you EDC, think of DCS. Thank you much for watching the CJRB Gobi review here on the channel. If you liked it, be sure to go ahead and hit that like so it can come up in a lot of different recommendation videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. You'd be really cool, and you would probably be entered in a giveaway. I'm just saying, if you went ahead and subscribed. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. In the meantime, you take care. Peace.